A very pleasant, pleasurable, lovable morning we have now. Because I believe in the universe is the time management. We are here in a way, connected with so many best souls. And the principal of the college, and his alma mater where I worked. This is what the connecting. And Dr. Hayes, Dr. Benison, and Dr. Ketrapal, and Dr. Christopher, and other faculty members, and all been connected in one umbrella term, literature. உனக்கும் எனக்கும் முட்ட முட்ட பால் சுரக்கும் மடி மனசு, அது இலக்கிய மனசு. With that spirit, I would like to connect with you all. And now it's a privilege and the opportunity given by the management principal, the head of the department, Dr. Benison, and my dear friends here, Dr. Hayes, and Dr. Ketrapal, and all other, the literary association secretary, I think it's Christopher, Christopher, and very well organized gathering here, and for that I must be very grateful. With the sense of gratitude, let me get into the core lecture of today. What is it? No, I couldn't hear you. This side. But they voiced to you just a minute. Mom. All together. Wow, that's good. That's a spirit. Because why this Australian literature? This is a very important question. Because you have been with almost the colonial period, we have been there. Our history exists stalwart here. Historically, how we have been colonized. We Indians. Not only how many countries being colonized. This is history. Please. Okay, please, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
We know, long back, the Board of Studies in every university, they have their own nomenclature. What we call it, naming the papers. The nomenclature, only you have the English and English literature. Even you must know that only in 19th century, even in England, that to the middle of the 19th century, English literature came to Oxford and Cambridge. Till then, Greek and Latin. It may be because of Matthew Arnold and his father. So they have their own commitment to getting into the mainstream of education there in the universities, and how they have introduced English literature. Even there in the English soil, English literature came to the universities only in the later period. So you see that we have been colonized. Right from 17th century. The East India Company entered and the English also entered. Do you think that it's a boon or a ban that you have English now? It's a boon or ban? A very hypothetical question. Have I asked you? Hypothetical question. You keep me mum. You interact with me. You are my friends. I already told you we have been gathered here under one term called literature. Yeah. Transcending all the languages. Literature is one. Languages may be many. But that is the spirit. That's why, we have been influenced by so many world literatures in plural. So English may be the bridge. English may be the connecting facility that would connect us with so many other languages through translations. It was done there in English also. So many Greek and Latin literatures translated in English. We have so many theories. It's a long history. But coming to the point, the nomenclature I told you, once only English literature, then the Americans they owned, as our Dr. Benison rightly pointed out, that American literature. After that, the Board of Studies, they have got into the branches of literature varied depending on the languages. But English is one. English is one, but we have a lot of literatures. That's why today, how it started with Commonwealth literature. What was called Commonwealth literature, and what could be of its components? On the day when it was started, Commonwealth means why the name was given to? Because the third level after American literature, there was a Commonwealth literature. What is Commonwealth? Even today we have Commonwealth sports. What's the connection we have with Commonwealth? And how do we connect Commonwealth with Australian literature? Very good. Give him a big hand. The inference, what he has, give him a big hand. We should appreciate ourselves that how do we go by the stream of thought. That's very important. Your cognition must be very, very weak. Aware of what is going on. The awareness is very important. How much we are aware of the kind of literary environment developed by English literature or English. So Commonwealth means the countries which have been colonized by Britain. This is all come under a common name called Commonwealth. It's a hegemony. There is a hegemony, a kind of power. Because the Commonwealth, why we have get away from the Commonwealth, now we center around the regional or the continental literature by its name of the continent. Why are we moving? What's the trajectory? How we developed? What's the alternative? Why we found alternative for Commonwealth countries in Commonwealth literature in that paper? Because once I was in the Board of Studies in Madras University, and I have combined all the literature in one paper, right from Indian writing in English and Australian, African, Canadian, like that. Every unit may have the countries. Now the age of specialization. So the third, fourth level, the Commonwealth, we there in the political scenario, the English of Indian race, Indian English, or literature in English in India, Indian writing in English. This is another nomenclature given by the Board of Studies. Indian writing in English. There, we have there, according to India, the colonial masters like Kipling, all, they have also written about India. The colonial, the British writing in English, about India. And the Indians, after having enhanced themselves with the English language, their creative realm, came out with Indians writing in English about India. And another wing, Indians writing in English about the colonial masters. It's also there. Could understand the classification? Are you able to follow me? Yes? I need the big yes. Yes, good. That's good. That's good. So, this same scenario can be seen there in Australia also with a difference, some differences. So, differences are there, accepting the difference. The academics accepting the differences and realizing the existence of literatures in the world using English language. Haiti literature or Kannadian literature or African literature. We have, even in Africa, we have so many literary personalities writing in English. Africa is a big continent. West Africa, South Africa, something like that. No, we have the many writers there. The same way, Australia. Australia is unique. So here, and I would like to just it's not moving here. Nice. Yes, okay, thank you. So why Australian literature? This is what we are now discussing. For that, we have I have given you a kind of pretext about Indian writing in English and the varieties and world literatures. Now we have got, after this kind of classification, we have got into new literatures. It's a new coinage, new literatures. I think you don't have any paper using this label, new literatures? No. But this Australian literature, so many components would come under new literatures. Why? Why? Because I talk about the future literature also. Australian literature, very the written. Alright, almost you find that literary work produced in the area. Because once D.H. Lawrence wrote about kangaroo, and even 1719 a poet Lawson also wrote about the kangaroo. Because kangaroo, very, very significant, very, very unique creature of Australian fauna. Fauna means the animal world of Australia. Kangaroo, you cannot say elsewhere. It is very unique. That attracted the English people, European settlers. So Australian literature has its own historical background, geographical background, cultural background, and political background, and ethnic background, and multicultural background. I could just add many things. Now I told you new literature's background also. New literatures, how it would connect with the ethnicity with the language. The ethnicity. Today almost, you find that today's literature concentrating on ethnicity of the regional soil. Because the soil cannot be disconnected from the culture. The tradition. There is tradition and culture. How do you define tradition and culture? Because that is there in any nomenclature we have about Australian literature or African literature or Indian writing in English or Indian literature today. Indian literatures today, including English in India. Using English in India. We have Sakitya Academy Award for the English writing in English also, like other the regional languages. That's why English has been recognized in India as a literary language, not only political language. And we have the kind of political conflict over that, how to remove English from the Indian political scenario. The ruler's agenda, that may be different, but that cannot be done. Because English has been realized in India as literary language. The same thing I could see there in Australia also. Because their official language is English, because of the colonization. But the Aborigines, I told you, Australia's preceding colonies, they have been, and the writers evolving from the kind of atmosphere English language, after having learnt, after having been influenced by the literary tradition of England, especially of Victorian period and the Romantic period. Because 1788, the first fleet, the James First fleet came to Australia. Before that, what happened to the soil might have been with any Aborigines, the native people? Yes. Because the Aborigines word will go with Australia alone. Aboriginal natives, the original natives of the inhabitants of Australian soil, they might have been believed they have come from the Southeast Asia, some 80,000 years back. That's why my work will go with how do we connect the Tinai poetics with Australian Aboriginal literary people, legends, their text. Tinai or Tamil Tinai poetics might have been known to you. Even in school, you might have studied it, the Tinai, Aindinai, Kurinji Tinai, Kurinji, Mullai, Neidal, Marudam, Palai, something like that. All can be applied to Australian classification, Tinai classification. So my research is going on that. I am connecting so many Aboriginal writers to that realm. Good. Just at outset, I have just referred to this kind of work is also possible because of the soil, the land. Because of the landscape of Australia being conceived by the writers, it turned to be the mindscape of Australia. The landscape and the mindscape. Because the rich seascape is there, seaside. So you must know the geography of Australia, you must know the history of Australia, otherwise you cannot classify Australian literature. That's why Australian literature deeply reflects the nation's unique cultural values, just drawn from soil, drawn from their the symbols derived by the soil. Symbols. You have, when we just get into the poem, you have the poetry unit. I will explain all those things. So, the relationship with the land, this is all very main idea. The relationship with the man, the land, and the experiences of indigenous Australians. Indigenous Australians, none but Aborigines. Aborigines, local people, the native people, the original inhabitants of Australia. Because their literature is originally oral literature. The written established only by the British people or the Europeans settled there in Australia. I told you the first fleet in 1788. Could you remember that? It came with the convicts because Australia once considered why they occupied Australia just to a kind of penal colony all the convicts sent to Australia. How the Andaman was used by the British in Indian context. The prisoners were sent. The same way, the convicts were sent to Australia as punishment. After that, the Aborigines, what happened to the Aborigines? Now, the 2021 survey suggests only 5% of Aborigines are present there in Australia, whole Australia. What happened to them? How they have been drowned, just drowned there in the desert, because the center of Australia completely of desert. The centripetal, the margin, you find one by one the land, cultivated land and seashore. The life where the settlers, the Europeans settled, they completely occupied the seashore and the adjacent side of the cultivated land. They cultivated land there, but the Aborigines pushed into the bushes of desert. They lost their life. That kind of the complexity or that kind of suppression of Aborigines you find in many writings there, especially Patrick White's. You find Patrick White's writing. I told you, the land was occupied by the settlers, European settlers, on one side. On the other side, and it has been hinted at around 250 to 300 languages spoken by the Aborigines in the island continent. 300. But what happened to them? Now the Aboriginal committee, even Judith Wright, the poet, she was not included in your syllabi. Very prominent non-Aboriginal poet from European origin, settled there and working for Aborigines. She formed Aboriginal Society for the welfare of the Aborigines. Worked for them. This is why Australian identity is something in complex nature. In one way, how the colonial masters regain or remixing themselves in Australian literature, Australian culture, or retaining the European culture in Australia on one side. On the other hand, how the Aborigines, they voiced against the colonial masters, the anti-colonial attitude. With that, they came out their text, Aboriginal literature. And the third level, how the Europeans, hand in hand with the Aborigines, they worked for Aborigines. So, this is what Judith Wright and others did. This is another kind of literature. Settlers working for Aborigines, writing about Aborigines. Aborigines writing about themselves, Aboriginal. Settlers retaining their European culture there in Australia, changing into, that's what here you find the geopolitical and historical conflict you find there in Australian literatures. This is what the background you have to see that. Without that, we cannot. So main themes. So the Australian literature may have a common themes, but it's very unique. First thing I could just point out the Aboriginality. This is what we have talked about. The Aboriginality. Even there in your Patrick White's novel. What's the novel described for you? First thing, it's my humble suggestion to you. When you have a paper, right, you must be thorough with the writer and their work. This is a very basic thing, and that would help you to sit for your examination preparation. Understand? And we always know strictly, even though now we don't have the clear idea about the writers and the work respectively there in the syllabi. We don't know. But we would do that, First thing in our college days, what are all the books prescribed, we won't go for it. What are all the books not prescribed by the author, for an author, we go by that. This is another kind of preparing yourself for the examination that would broaden your view on a particular author or the literature of a particular country. It's very important. So it's a suggestion. Go by that. Use. So, aboriginality is a prime main. That's why, Australian literature evolved. Because Australia has its own unique theme. The theme must be connected with the soil. The soil is owned by the Aborigines. Even though settlers came and owned it, but still, they provide, they feed something, the essence of Australia into their text. Whether it's a poem or short story or prose, non-fiction or drama, whatever it is. The basic. And also matching. And other countries, European, it's a friendship. Nothing but, don't confuse yourself. Only in New Zealand and Australia, for friendship they use matchship. This kind of matchship. How the so-called settlers, once they suppressed and driving away the Aborigines to the center, the bush, and causing death to them, but on some other hand, because of humanitarian aspects, because the literature's base is there in humanitarian concern. Any piece of work, it doesn't have the humanist touch, that cannot be called the literary piece. And because of that, you find the friendship. How we have a kind of the fellow. How do we get into the fellow man's suffering? These are all another theme that we find in Australia. It's very unique. You have many examples there in your syllabus, Australian literature paper. And another thing, the egalitarianism, the equality, the equal level of feeling, empathetic outlook. Empathy is not simply sympathy but empathy. Patrick White is a writer of empathy. You find that. Another thing, the migrant democracy is that after it has been announced, Australia was the first country in the world given voting right for women. Australia. The franchise given to women for the first country. Next only Switzerland came next to Australia. First, that's why they celebrate democracy. Even though they have been under the clutches of the imperialist, mainly British imperialist. For so many years, Queen Elizabeth in their country head. But they fought against that kind of democracy. That is a different story, but they have been recorded, documented in so many writers of your syllabi, given that. And another national identity, the Australian national identity. It is nothing but go with the aboriginality and multiculturalism. Now in Australia there is a movement even against multiculturalism. The multiculturalism is different from pluralism. I am using two terms now, multiculturalism and pluralism. Now the 21st century writers are for the pluralist concern. Multiculturalism, something mixed with. They don't want now. Because of that, there are discriminations. Because we need differences, we can accept differences, but we cannot accept discrimination. You must know the difference between discrimination and differences. Difference is positive. Is there. The 5 fingers are different. But for that, we cannot discriminate any finger, right? This I don't want, this I don't want. Discrimination is negative. Understand? And this you find there in the national identity of Australian poets, especially. You find. Even there in the novels, non-fiction writings. And also you find the proximity to Asia, because now the anthropological researchers, they are feeding a lot of sources for search. What search? How Indians, the Lemurians, have the connection with Australian aborigines, the New Zealandian native people. Even in New Zealand, we have in Tamil words are available. The Waitangi Treaty of Australia, especially the Waitangi, has some connection with the Tamil word. So that is different. Because it's a very vast area, I don't want to deviate yourself coming, because I should also make you aware of the Asian proximity. Because the route, where from they have come to Australia, some 80,000 years back, the Southeast Asia. So we have anthropological and archaeological evidences available now. The route, the mapping of the shift of the races from Southeast Asia to Australia and New Zealandian islands. Is there? That's why it's reflecting in the text. And the urban living, the complexities of urban living, you have many pieces. I just touch upon that also. The urban living, the complexities, because when you are urbanized, you will lose the innocence of countryside. We have been urbanized. It's a very complex entity. Becoming very selfish, first thing. Urbanized, leading to selfishness, self-centered, not worrying about others. That you find there in many metropolitan cities. Even there in the apartment culture, the next door may not be known to the other door. They don't know who is there. But this urbanization also there, it's a part of industrial revolution. And it's a part of globalization. It's a part of the new politics just spread in Australia also. So, beauty and the terror is another important phrase. One side, you have the Australian seashore. Am I audible to you all? Because I feel this is a kind of disturbance. Right, leave it. Oh, I am free from the clutches of the mic. Are you audible? I am audible? Good, nice. So, the kind of the border, the frontiers of Australia is very beautiful. Seashore, and by which you have the cultivated land. But inside is a very deadly desert. The bush, because you have the wild lemons. The wild lemon poem also, suggestive of the thorned bush. Is representing that. You have that piece. So it's very horrifying. Especially you don't have the piece called Vase by Patrick White. The Vase, find how the aborigines taking the protagonist was into the desert and cutting his throat there. Terrifying. Still I remember because it was filmed also. If his chance comes, just see the film of Vase. It's available. How the aborigines takes a challenge over and finally finishing off a German Jew. Because Patrick White is a Jew. The kind of racial politics you find there in Judith Wright's writing. The terror, terrifying setting, terrifying the bush setting. It is elaborated in so many aboriginal literature. It is an important one. Australian literature encompasses a wide range of voices. Again, the voice tones, wide range, right from indigenous Australia. I told you, aborigines, migrants, migrated from, and immigrants. Even now we have Indian voice there. The Mithila by the Indian media personality, they are doing her contribution to Australian literature from India. And the people from different socio-economic backgrounds. So what the settlers? Different socio-economic backgrounds. And also you find providing the multifaceted view, because it's not like USA, but USA is called a multicultural. But here you find in Australia, the mixed culture of aborigines one side, one accepting it, the settlers, among the settlers, some accepting it, some retorting against it, and aborigines, even there vice versa, aborigines accepting the European culture, they turned to become foreigners, foreign culture, accepting the foreign culture. How we just use our pant and shirt now. It's a part of your chudidar is not the Tamil dress. It is of Rajasthan and Gujarat. How you are mixed up now. You call it very convenient, comfortable. This dress, that's why now the Pongal time, we celebrate Veti Day. The Veti days. We don't know how to wear. That's why, Ottigo, Kattigo, something like that. You have all kind of the dress multi. It's a result of the other culture encountering with the native culture. That's why culture is different from tradition. Tradition is something, stagnant, stable, never be changed. You have a traditional attitude, but you have cultural dress. The cultural dress, the dress reflecting culture, but your attitude there inside carrying over your past, your a kind of good old past carrying over, the legacy. Whatever the religion you are in, whatever a kind of practice or whatever the culture being influencing on you, but still we have inside the house we have so many traditional markings, right? We are just leaving the chapel outside, still leaving. Cannot we get into the house with chapels? This is our tradition. But we have alternative, we are using some other chapel there in the house, using chapels. But we never use the chapel there outside. We have separating. But what we have in our traditional attitude, don't use the chapel what we are using for outside, inside. It's called tradition. This is what the difference between tradition and culture. Culture is dynamic. subject to change. Subject to change. In future, this dress may be changed. You may revive your old sari, but wearing sari is very difficult one. Discomfort also. He just is looking at me. How do you know that? How do you know that, man? That's what you have there in the crying man scenario there in the poem. Crying man. So, this is very important how the literature or the text of literatures, especially Asian literature, it has different voices. Voicing out. That's more important. Representing the suppressed. Representing the discomfort. Representing the servitude. Representing the love. Or the love relationship or whatever it is. Because it has its own voice, the tone. It is there in very multi-level, we find it, the themes. I told you, landscape. So the geographical background is more important because that feeds the landscape or geographical stretch, feeds a lot of sources and symbols to the literary giants for their writing, for their making of a kind of environment. தமிழில் சொல்வீங்களா திணை உருப்பொருள் கருப்பொருள் முதற்பொருள் கருப்பொருள் உரிப்பொருள். That kind of classification you can very well see there in the landscape poetry. What does it suggest? First, may not be directly referring to, but it has its own inferences. That is more important. That's why the first poem, C.K. Stead's poem, the gallery, the pictures in the gallery under sea. It is completely drawn from the landscape, the seascape especially, under sea. How he connecting the multicultural entities in a single poem like T.S. Eliot. Very interesting. He has used the techniques of the modernist. But all, related to the symbols of the soil. You find it. And especially, prominent theme in many works providing distinctive setting for stories and characters as diverse landscape and seascapes from the desert interior. Interior is the desert, and the exterior, the farming lands, and the border, find the seashore. So, desert, interior, the middle landscape, farming lands, and the third level, the frontier, the border, completely surrounded by seascape. Seascape, farming landscape, and desert, thorny deserts. So this, the geographical environment, the ecosystem, it is well documented by writers of Australia. The ecosystem is there. In the morning, I just heard someone there in Dr. Benison's student, working on ecosystem. It's a very, what we call it, a kind of a cognitive, phenomenal cognitive exercise you can have with working or reading such symbols related to soil. Could you understand that? Cognitive? What's called cognition? Everyone is blessed with that. You are here, what for? Someone, many I think, hopefully, right? Like to know something, right? Like to know. Knowing is cognitive. Knowing. You try to know. If it is something new, definitely being attracted, what is it? Definitely on seeing me, what that idiot may say to us. Some kind of thought or something, what you will just say. Some kind of. So it is all coming out from your instinct called knowing, that I technically call it cognition. The cognition is governing us. The cognition is the driving force. This cognition is almost governed by our environment. That's why, Dr. Ketrapal, told me, I never just, treat that the classroom is my classroom. The classroom, everywhere. Even on the roadside, we have classrooms. Even the tea shop, the canteens, we have classrooms. My students would come and join and they will start talking, and we have so many topics. He talked about Aurobindo, that Aurobindo was discussed just on the roadside, that too under a hot sun one Sunday by 11 o'clock on the street. So this is what, the environment. How do we make it? It needs a kind of systematic study. That's why cognitive study is a kind of systematic study. There is one-to-one correspondence. One leads to another. That another would just make a kind of, a text. The text full of inferences and references. Denoting as well as connotating. Denoting one-to-one. Singam bola. If one comes like Singam, how do you accept it? Ponnu eppadi irpa? Kiliyaatta irpa. Who would marry her? If we take it literally. Ponnu kiliyaattana mukku. I could remember that Mudalvan film. There, the artist, cartoonist. The hero's father is cartoonist, and he reporting to mother that what kind of girl you like, Kiliyattam. He started drawing the kili with that mukku. If you get a bride like that, how would it be? So what does that mean? The Kiliyattam is referential meaning is something awkward, but the inferential meaning is very pleasant. Present in the sense, beauty, some kind of pleasing. Understand? This is what we have to see there in poetry with all the symbols. It has both referential meaning as well as inferential meaning inside. Uri porul, suggestive meaning of suggestiveness. This is what you have to have in reading any literary work. No. Which is referential, which is inferential. Could you understand the difference between referential and inferential? Could you understand? That's good. So this is very much there being the biodiversity of Australian, the landscape. Good. So let me just point out struck with the magic touch he needs. His magic. Oh, it comes there. Oh, no, I wasn't. Just. So we have seen geographical context. Now it's a historical context. Because to study or to learn any work of art, especially writings, you must have. This is what the holistic approach, the historical context. Because it has a colonial past. Two different historical contexts. One is the colonial past. Another one is Aboriginal existence. The remote past. The remote past of Aborigines and the later past of colonial, and its impact continues. The present. So you have both. One is the remote past of aborigines, and another one is the later past of colonial occupation, the colonial settling, and the mixed with that, the present is a mixture of both. This is what historical context. So, establishment of the Commonwealth of Australia. This is a Commonwealth. The term has an ironical usage. Commonwealth for whom? Imperialist, British. Your wealth is common to them. This is what irony. That's why politically it was against the nomenclature Commonwealth. That's why they wanted to have the regional wise or localized term called Australian, Indian, African, Canadian, like that. This is a kind of political protest against the nomenclature Commonwealth. Political. Because politics always connected with history. Any political or policy without having the note of history, you cannot understand. Understand? It's good. So, do you find it's very heavy? It's easy? Because I'm trying to map the conceptual frame of geographical, historical, and thematic background of Australian literature. Connecting the dots. I try to connect the dots. I connect with you all, no? All minds are dots. I am also a dot. Now I am connected with you all. Are you connected with me? Very weak case. Are you connected with me? Oh, that's good. That's great. Now, nice. So, this is arrival of the first ancestors, Aboriginal Australians. From where, or when the history, human history of Australia began. The arrival. So, 80,000 years of history Australia has. So, the maritime Southeast Asia, I told you, by sea, they came to maritime. So, it's another research area. The last phrasing, it would feed us with hours and hours and hours of talk in it. That alone. I can talk with Han for a year with that topic. Such a material we have. Okay, good. So, again, I don't need the magical touch of our friend. Where is he? What's it? What's his name? Sam. Let me try. Oh, it comes. It comes? It comes. Right. So I told you, this is what? The first fleet of 1788 with the convicts settled there in the seashore of Australia. The colonial history starts. But before that, they most likely lived in Australia for over 80,000 years of the Aborigines with more than 300 languages. All oral. Not any written representation. Graphic representation. Good. So, this is very important how the ancient Australia brought into the modern texts of Australian literature. Another point. Literary merit. So all may have this literary merit. Australian literature boasts a variety of high quality works. For your reference, I will suggest you one book. Cambridge Press released a history of Australian literature. History of Australian literature. Cambridge Companion to Australian Literature is a book title. Cambridge Companion to Australian Literature is available online also. You can just download and read it. You read it, you know that. the varieties of writers. How the world have the varieties of writers, the same way every country. We have Indians. Indians have very varieties of writers. This is another topic. I don't want to get into that. Now, so offering you a kind of good reading experience. That experience would make you broaden your mind. That would sharpen your cognitive search. Definitely you will become, all scholars. That's why, my ambition is you all must be scholars. The scholars alone would turn to be creators. To be creative, you must be scholarly. Basic. To be scholarly, you must be a reader. You are a voracious reader. You must read a lot. Read a lot. Read a lot. That should be your mission. Then you visualize you are a creator. Good. I would like to you all be a creator. In any way. Because avenues are open. You must be blessed with your the discipline what you have selected, literature. That English literature. A student of English literature, even today, I am crossing the disciplines. I am a cross-disciplinarian. I am working with a corporate company now, after my retirement, working with the ethnicity of plants, especially bamboo. From bamboo, how do we make biomass? From biomass, how do you produce electricity? Now, the literature man working with that company. So, you have, because English have a kind of potential. Only thing that keep engaging yourself with reading in English or Tamil or whatever it is, reading. Keep yourself reading. You will become scholarly. So you decide what you want to be. This is my out of context, not out of the context, within the context. No, before you get into the specific writers, we have basically a aesthetic sense, the sense of awesome. Good, nice. Tasting any ice cream? Oh, hot. Wow, great. This sense. Definitely. Seeing you on a mirror, reflecting yourself, loving you. Oh, nice. How I look. My hair. Oh, nice. That's the beginning of your aesthetic sense. Love yourself. Then there may be a chance to love others, right? Love yourself. Because love begins within. Love begins within. I love you all. I love you all. Because I love me very much. I could see you all in myself. That kind of transition you find in literature. Only the literature student can taste it, experience it, explain it. It's ineffable, but explain. Try to explain. Because all these things being explained, the writers try to explain, the product is the work of art. Now, the writers. I think now coming to the syllabi, your syllabus, right? Could you remember? Les Murray, something looks Greek. Have you seen him in the syllabi? So many are not started. Started. Huh? Yes. Judith writes, moving image. You have. But I think you don't have. You just check with your. Have you started taking this slide? Taking? Judith wright is over? half coming means off completed, not fully completed. Okay, what do you know about Judith Wright? What's time now? 12:10. Is boring? Is it boring? Yes, sir. I could hear a feeble liberty is there. You could say that, right? Because another half an hour I will just complete. Just because we have now the first introduction part is not only an introduction part, make you feel that what is Australian literature. Could you just feeling that the kind of background, the context created to understand, because a strong foundation I have given you, with which any writer of Australian literature you can approach. That's why the pretext given to you. Now I touch upon some writers from your syllabus. So this is very important. Why I have started with and Les Murray. Judith Wright is a very good poet. I told you already about Judith Wright, because an European and till her death worked for Aborigines. How the non-Dalit committed to work for Dalit community. Like that. I could see the parallel. Judith Wright is such a humanist, a warm-minded, lovable, and he is fond of human being irrespective of their background. Especially she loved Aborigines like anything. Such a poet. Because in the 80s, I was so fond of Judith Wright. In the 80s, 1980s, the poet was not prescribed to us, but out of the box I went over and collected and talked about her, and I worked on her for my MA project. But Judith Wright was not included in my syllabus. Even I don't have anything about Australian literature by the Board of Studies of then university, that in Madras University. But out of interest, I went over. Even my guide, couldn't understand that who is that Judith Wright. He asked me and I explained. Judith Wright is. But such a professor, he admired Judith Wright and he was ready to accept my choice. It's very rare, Teachers would accept the student's choice. But I am always for students. I accept your choice. Shall I stop now? Oh, he's turning there and saying yes, but I cannot accept that yes. If I just looking at me and talking to me, then I accept. But you are just hiding your face. This is not hide and seek, right? But she needs some kind of break, I think. All right? Yes or no? What to say? You have a liberty. 5 minutes. Huh? Okay. See that. I am voicing for her. Nice, good. So let us have 5 minutes. Or shall we continue? Who the majority? 5 minutes? The pretty girl just looking, very sad looking. The gaze is whatever you say, I will just look, continue like this. Something like that. Not like that. Okay? I'll give you a 5 minutes break. Let us get into the writers. Okay? Good? Thank you. Thank you for listening. Let's see after 5 minutes. Exact 5 minutes. Sharp 5 minutes. Okay. Have. You just feel free. You discuss. Or if you want to ask me any kind of questions, you just ask me. Sweeping. Who would say? Who would do that? Me? No. Kind of the angry outlook, right? But anything needs a kind of interest. Reading book, writing, thinking, listening. But I would just give me a grand hands of applause, please. It's good. It's not for me, but for you. But for your keen listening to me for the past 1 hour. Good. Super. Good. I think got energy now. Preparing yourself to listening another half an hour. Right? Are you ready? Ready, my dear? What's your name? Huh? Berlin. Wow, Berlin. It reminds me of the German Berlin, right? Are you from Germany? Good. Berlin. Good. So, it's very important. Now, let me just check ourselves with the writers, what you have. And beginning with Les Murray, an absolutely ordinary rainbow. So I'll just touch upon the titles alone, right? Because I believe in cognitive poetics. How do we go with the title, the keywords, and by which how do we identify the themes? This is a wonderful exercise. Good? So, nice. So here, an absolutely ordinary rainbow. What's the contrast you find there in the title? The contrast thing. Very good. Give him a big hand, Alexander Research. Good. What's the contrast? I asked. He said ordinary. How? Will you please explain? Ordinary. You said ordinary. Good answer. Will you explain? Why do you say ordinary is contrast a key word in that phrase? Why? Why it's ordinary is contrasting? Because the before that you have absolutely, completely, a kind of uniqueness given. But absolutely a rainbow, absolute rainbow is good. Absolute rainbow means a complete rainbow. It's a rare phenomena where you find only there a kind of combination, the sun and the rain meets. I combined there in my Tamil poem, one of my Tamil poems, called it Eera Veyil. En Eera Veyile. I addressed rainbow like that. Could you understand the metaphor? Eera Veyile. Veyilum Eeramu onnu illa. Where you find the combination? In rainbow. Rainbow occurs only when there is a drizzling, the same time there is a sun ray. So the sun rays and the droplets, rain droplets meeting, and the refraction is rainbow. Physics theory. Physics. But it would give us a kind of metaphysics. The coinage is metaphysics. Eera Veyil is metaphysics. Talk about the physical phenomena called rainbow. Okay, good. What is here the contrast? The rainbow is not ordinary phenomena. It's not ordinary. Rainbow, no. Hi, rainbow. Everyone excited out of that. Rainbow. Oh, nice. Rainbow. Anyone? Will you do like that? You may have a sense of awesome there. Oh, rainbow. Look at it for some time. And just going through that with the stretch The stretch here from start there. Oh, what a great bow. The kind of awesome you may have, but he call it ordinary rainbow. How is it possible? It's not possible, ordinary rainbow. But poet can make it ordinary. Why? That's what the theme. So what the content there, it is not extraordinary, but ordinary. You want to trivialize a common emotion there. What's it? A man is crying. Very beautiful setting. In an urban area, urbanized, all the stock market offices and coffee houses, Greek club, all those things. Surrounded by men. In a square, all on a sudden, a man started crying. This is what is sitting in the poem. Have you got the poem? Do you have the text with you? Huh? You have the text? It's good. If you have a text, you may just refer to the text. The crying. There, gone. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Dark night of the season. Yes, please. Dark night of the season. The traffic in George Street, the setting at George Street, is behind up for half a mile. Traffic, heavy traffic, traffic jam happened. I think someone reading a poem, I think. You want to read the poem? Shall I read? Thank you. Nice, good. And drained of motion. Mobility curtailed. No movement. Traffic jam. Why? Why? There a man crying. This is what the setting. Come hurrying, many run in the back streets, which minutes ago were busy main streets, pointing. There is a fellow weeping down there. No one can stop him. This is what the key setting of the poem. No one there to stop him. Cannot stop him. Continuously weeping. That's why all attracted by that weeping, crying, then so happened traffic jam. Ordinary rainbow. The rainbow stands for the man crying. What's the contrast? Here you find a kind of gender outlook. Man should not. What traditionally? The gender is interest or gender-based expectation, anticipation of man, male or man should not weep, cry. That too in public. If he weeps, it is his weakness. But the weaker sex, they can weep. Contrast. What is untold? Women can cry. That can be exhibited. All would accept it. But man should not cry. This is what the knot of the poem. But he has visualized it as an ordinary one. Man crying is ordinary. This is what is breaking the traditional outlook of crying imposed on man. Breaking it. That's what. The poem questions old-fashioned and outdated ideas about what it means. The outdated ideas. So new one. You if you read it, the whole poem you find it. How has the author, the poet, trivialized man's crying on street? It's an ordinary thing. But how he has ended, no one there, so many touching him started crying. A woman going there just to help him, rescuing from the crying, but she started crying. The others, I could remember one of the old movies, Chinnanjiru Ulagam. There Nagesh played a role of Chinna Pannayar. He visited one of their farm workers' marriage. There he is sitting. There, find the near the bridal stage, there is a kuttuvilakku. It's burning, right? It lit, and the kind of light, it touches, is about to touch the saree of the bride. Started imagining, if it blazing there the saree of the woman, how would be the bridegroom, and how he would get into that fire, and suddenly everyone would get into fire, and seeing that he started crying. Nagesh started crying, and seeing Nagesh, crying, everyone started crying. Just in an hour, there in the marriage hall, everyone is crying. Such a movie. And he himself asks why he was crying. So chain-like reaction, everyone answered back, because of you. Last is ended with the Chinna Pannayar Nagesh. Crying. So crying here trivialized the same way you find there in Les Murray's An Absolutely Ordinary Rainbow. Crying, trivializing, and looked upon it an ordinary thing. He stopped, and without knowing what happened, what impact it made on street, the George Street, he's just leaving the place at last. Just leaving, walk away. Ordinary rainbow. Never attracted, but so attracted, but never made an impact. This is what, Les Murray's poem. You read it, you understand it. David Malouf. I told you, the Wild Lemons. Wild Lemons, see, poetry would give you a kind of source of what the literariness. It's a source of literariness. Some poems may be very serious, but some poems may be literary. But all the literary poems may not be serious poems. Could you understand? Understand? The serious poems may not be literary. Literary in the sense, it would give a kind of the aesthetic feeling, emotions, trying towards you. That kind of, because in the modern world, we have serious poems, whether we have literary poems. That's the difference we have. Okay, good. Here, it makes a kind of series. The previous poem, what we have seen, it has a kind of literariness, depicting an ordinary occasion, or ordinary event, or ordinary exposure to crying of a man, but how it makes a kind of impact when you read it. Because it talks about a kind of, a gender politics. Gender politics. Very serious. That's why, I classified this serious poem with less literariness. Understand? Right. Now, the wild lemons. Here it represents the thorny plants, because lemon plant is a thorny plant, right? Thorns are there. Without thorns, could you find any lemon trees? No. Lemon is kind of bush-like. Bush. stands for the bush. So geographically, the Australian center part is full of bush, thorny bush, the wilderness. This wilderness being described is a kind of path of an island. Could you have the poem with you? Wilderness. The path which seemed to show signs of habitation. And because that's very metaphorical, the metaphorical turns into a kind of an experience. Turning to be the experience, because it is so attractive to the aborigines of Australia than the other English speaking or English reading people. You may not understand the depth of or the thing, because you want to empathetic towards it. Then only understand the suffering of aborigines. The path leading to the history of aborigines. So the wild lemon plant, the wilderness. I told you, the beauty and the terror image. Beautiful, but kind of horrified in nature. So that's why automatically gone. David Wolfe, one of the Aboriginal writers, right? And promising indication that it was worth taking, and in final image, the dream image is a final image, include the scent of the wild lemons on the island, the smell, the metaphorical usage of the smell, how it spreads, because one of the five senses. But that smell, the image of smell transformed, is an abstract image, but transformed into the concrete body image. Feeling it. You can see body, the skin, all those things, but you cannot see the feeling of touch. You can see the nose, but can you see the impact of the smell? No. This is abstract through a concrete medium. So body is a medium. That's why here is a well created a space, land, connecting with the time, the passage. The dream happens. The dream has its own sequence, and it has well connected with time. Dream and the time well connected. But where he started the space, the time present, and how the body experiencing both the space and time. What's the space and time? It is something unraveled, or something hidden in the collective consciousness of Australian Aborigines. What they suffered, what they lost, what they crossed, what they transcending to the present. How do they carry over to the future? Because body, this is something, it would remind me of the Siddha tradition. Siddha பாடல்கள் திருமூலரை இதோட கனெக்ட் பண்ணுவேன், என்னால் பண்ண முடியும். பட் இட் மே பி something out of your box side. I don't want to just get into it. And also we can very well apply Thinai poetics to this poem. How the body is a medium that could very well comprehensively and emotionally and spiritually realizing space of his time and the time of his space, vice versa. Space of his time, the space where he just get into the time, and the time in which he could travel into the land. This was very metaphorical, metaphysical conceit he has used by this image. It's a very interesting poem. It would feed our intellectual need. Very logically connected. So, the last line, what goes is time and clouds melting into, yes, melting into tomorrow of our health, tomorrow of our breath, a scent of lemons run wild in another country but smelling always of themselves. Universal. A particular, a significantly particular image now transformed into universal image. This is what the significance of the poem. Which country, where the trajectory, the path just leading the poet, that is not given, abruptly ended, but it is universal, infinite. From the finite to infinite. From the finite, the wild lemon, what is being carried out? Not the lemon, but the smell. Not the lemon of the appearance, but the smell. The smell has two things, the origin of both time and space. Where from I come, where from I just originate, or when I started originating. The when and the where, the time and the space, well combined in the image, while by the abstract image called smell, the lemon smell, the smell. So that's why I could see that there is a kind of literariness, a metaphysical richness. Could you find the difference between the earlier poem and this poem? Could you understand? The earlier poem trivializing. Rainbow is a symbol, that too. But it stands for a weeping, crying man. But never attracted. That's what a simple logic given. Here, in the metaphorical transformation happening through space and time, from time and space through body. Body here experiencing the smell. Here nose. The body here, but nothing but a nose. But how it carried away? It is not only common to you. It is not only very specific to your experience. It would be the experience of the universe. Expanding. There is a chance of expanding, right? Our abstract feeling being expanded. We could feel one with the universe. Understand? Andamum pindamum madri. Andamna another universe. Small cog. I could feel the universe's significance in myself. எனக்குள்ள பேரன்பு அன்பு தெரியும் எனக்கு பேரன்பு என்ன how I just understand only through these poetic expressions we could realize the grandeur of love, the grandeur of humanism. It transcends, it expands. Empathetic. வள்ளலார் சொன்னார்ல, வாடிய பயிரை கண்டபோதெல்லாம் அவர் வாடினார். இன்னொருத்தர் என்ன பண்ணார், முல்லைக்கு தேறிந்தார். போய் முல்லை அப்படியே கண்டு கூப்பிட்டுருக்கலாம் கையை தட்டி, ஏய் யாரங்கே வந்ததுக்கு பந்தல் போடுன்ட்டு. ஆனால் அந்த கிங் என்ன பண்ணல, உடனே ஓடி போகுது. கொஞ்சம் கூட போகல, பார்த்துட்டோம், அது இன்னும் கொஞ்சம் துன்பப்படக்கூடாது. எம்பத்தட்டிக். தட்ஸ் வை அபாரிஜினல் உடனே கொண்டு போய் தேர நிறுத்திட்டான். பட் அதில் படரு இவன் நடந்து போகிறான். சில பேர் சொல்லலாம் முட்டாள்தனம்ன்ட்டு. பட் அந்த இமீடியசி, how it spreads to. This is what empathetic. The poem has an empathetic outlook, spreading my experience to the universe. Something great. Okay, good. something, the next one. Sequestered, I told you, the imagery, pictures in a gallery under sea. It is, I told you, very technical. Allusions are very much there. And talking about, again, the searching of the root under the sea. This is what, the seascape is very much, explained or expanded or explored in the poem with the European allusions, because it takes place in the beginning. Two squares, one is there, the England, London. The first one and the last one ended. The square related to the London metropolitan city atmosphere. In between, how he alludes so many images under the sea, the gallery under the sea. A kaleidoscopic appreciation you find in that poem. Many things. Very technical. That's why, because his thesis, PhD thesis is on T.S. Eliot and W.H. symbolism. That's why you find the influence, because he was much influenced by Ezra Pound also. The modernism is much spread over by Ezra Pound, and Ezra Pound being influencing T.S. Eliot, and T.S. Eliot, the tradition and individual talent, you might have known about it. How, especially the outcome of that, the tradition and individual talent, you find there in Wasteland is poem. This is like Wasteland. T.S. Eliot's poem called Wasteland. You find so many allusions. But talking about what is lost, the tradition. Here the Aborigine, because under the sea. Under the sea. Something drowned. Something lost. So he tried or tend to just, give it back life. Whether it is possible. So, it's left to you. Read the poem, you understand. Okay? Time is up? Almost. Okay. Left out other two writers. Sally Morgan. Sally Morgan is an Aboriginal writer. Please give much importance to her works, Sally Morgan. And Jack Davis also, The Dreamers, the play. Aboriginal family. Is a real story, happened, that has been filmed also. If it is available, you just witness it, the film. So, period home of the family, the play maintains an elegiac tone throughout for a tribal past. You find it. It has moved very much spiritually in harmony with the land. And The Dreamers, the first drama written, portrays the contemporary metropolitan experience of Aborigines. This is more important. The first drama exposing them, the Aborigines' experience in the metropolitan city called Sydney or Melbourne. Right? So, at the same time, celebrating the survival myth and resistance against. So, I consider is one of the best works of the Aboriginal writing. Nick Enright also, Daylight Saving, is a comedy, of course, based on the absurd theatre, and that you can enjoy, the comedy. Patrick White, another great writer, and how you find that the multiculturalism turns to be pluralism. Here, how a Jewish Germany, 4 characters, it is very metaphysical. It can be well identified with Arjunan's Gita Upadesam, Krishna and the Krishnan chariot, well combined, will be well combined, and the self as Lord of the chariot, the body as the chariot itself, the discriminating intellect as the charioteer, and the mind as the reins. You will find it. It's a symbolic expression. 4 characters, playing a role there. Crazy Harris, called Mary. Mary is a German Jewish refugee, a devout housewife, and Aboriginal artist. the four combined together, how they just make a matchship with each other. I told you, matchship, the friendship, the fellow. How throughout the novel, a very big novel, but student of literature must read the novel with another novel called Was. Was also available in film form, and this is also, I think they have made a script out of that. I'm not sure. And Doris Pickington is another fellow, the rabbit proof fence is based on a true story, and how the Molly's half sister and Gracie, the three young Aboriginal girls, escaped from the government camp, from the cruelty. Right? How they escaped. So it talks about dispossession of land, violence, countless massacres, stolen wages, unpaid labor and servitude and more. It all just comprehensively told. Yes, literature. Literature represents human narratives. Even we have a narrative here that can be turned into a literary piece. Our discussion, and the record document, the past narratives are the past, present, traveling towards future. This is what literature. So is Australian literature. So is our narratives also. And thank you for your patience. Thank you very much.